From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, from The Office, Brian Baumgartner. With Gina Grad on news, Paul Bryan on sound effects, and Dave Damashek's here for good sports. And now, the country is as divided as his eyebrows are united. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on. He mandates you get it on. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you. Right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
Handball, Brian.
This isn't a game. This is my life.
So as you hear this, Sonny, me, and Mike August are making our way to the White House to interview the president out in the Rose Garden. Sonny just wanted to go. My thing is, school's fine, but I like experiences. You know, I love, if you think about your life, you always think about those experiences. Sonny's got a lot of range because he was really pissed that he didn't get to meet Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he was equally as pissed when he thought he was going to miss out on Trump. And I don't know anybody that would be equally as angry over not meeting Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Donald Trump. But
well, he's not going to miss school, though. I'm sure you're going to make him do Zoom school when he gets there with the time difference.
You do on the plane.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Yeah, Zoom school, that's that workout routine out of Brazil.
Yeah, you kind of shake your
Oh,
hips.
man, fantastic asses those
great.
chicks have on them, man. They are hot.
Yeah.
I was going on with the joke. Go ahead.
Oh, more. Okay. I was going to ask, we really know very little about how this came to be, what exactly you're doing there. How did you get reconnected with Trump? What's the backstory?
I don't know, but Mike August did something. Mike August called somebody or did something. That's really all I know. I haven't really talked to anybody about it. They just said, let's do it. So Mike just kind of did it. I did it. I had a sad testimonial or whatever, but I was so Sonny wanted to go, so I was like, you can go. Then I was going to tell my mom I was going. I was talking to her the other day, and I thought she'd get pissed off. So I thought, and the last time I had this conversation with her about Trump, she did that thing where she went, "You don't know Trump." And I said, "I know Trump." And she was like, "But you don't know him." And I was like, "I do, don't I?" And she's like, "No." I mean, and then I couldn't figure out if she was saying, "Do you really know anybody? Like, do you know what Lurk?" But she wasn't saying that.
As much as no one really knows the man. Does he have friends that he calls on a casual basis?
She didn't mean it that way. She meant like you don't know him. Which it's a weird angle for mom and the president and the son. But anyway, I was like, I don't know, she's not going to like it or whatever. And I just thought, oh boy, that's a mark of a bad relationship, right? Where the son is going to go to the White House and introduce the president. It's like, I don't want to piss my mom off. Yeah. I'll just play. I mean, I understand Trump is unique in this situation, but it's still the White House. It's still the president. So anyway, everyone's trying to. Sonny had to get a haircut and go buy a suit. Like he doesn't have a haircut or a suit. Yes.
Have you been to the White House? I know you've been to Congress, but that's obviously not the same thing. Have you been to the White House before?
I went there. I'm going to say 1990, probably like 6 or 7. Me and producer Ann from Loveline and I did the WHF Festival, the Washington, D.C. Festival,
Sure.
And I have this vague memory of going to take a tour of the White House, probably 97, 98. There's certainly some pictures floating around on the computer somewhere in Maxipata, but I was in there. I was with producer Ann and the band, the Afghan Wigs. That was the band. Well, it would make sense that it would be one of the bands that was playing the festival.
That would be almost the most likely scenario.
Right. So unless the Afghan Wigs were just randomly touring the White House when I showed up.
Tully's a huge fan of civics.
Yeah, I didn't even know much about the Afghan Wigs, but if you looked up Maxipata, the WHF Festival, WHFS, I guess would be. And the year the Afghan Whigs played would probably be 98 or 97 or whatever. And that's the year I went there. Taking a tour of the White House, I remember as being kind of cool, but minus the president
Clinton, right?
or folks like that.
Indeed.
Yeah, was it Clinton? Minus the president. It's just kind of like walking through a stadium after a game or when a game's not being played. It's like, this is where the kickoff would be. And this is,
Imagine, if you will.
Imagine Cam Newton under the center. And it's like, yeah, I guess so. But it's kind of an empty stadium, but it's still cool. It's just, it's dormant. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it's in
a museum.
Play. Yeah.
I'm sad to say the only thing I really know about the Afghan Whigs, other than they're like a cool band that I never got into, is the lead singer, Greg Dully. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Well, you guys remember the movie Backbeat came out in like mid-90s about the Beatles, like the young Beatles in Hamburg?
Okay.
Yeah.
He did the soundtrack, I believe, is John Lennon. Like he sang all of John Lennon's parts in the.
Oh, is that true?
That's cool.
I did not know that.
We can look that up. I'm almost positive.
June 1st, 1996, No Doubt also played.
Wow.
They were just breaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah. They and there were the Afghan Whigs and me and producer Ann. So that was
crew.
Luckily, I hid some explosives and police, Secret Service.
Nope.
If you're listening. So that was that's our plan. I have no idea how it's going to work or what else is going on past that. But I did agree to take Sonny because. Sonny's like, again, he's got a lot of range. He's mad that he didn't get to meet Tony Gonzalez, who came in here. He's mad that he didn't get to meet Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he would have been mad if he didn't get to meet Trump at the White House. And then I started I had this thought. You guys tell me what you think of this. So so it's like Sonny's a little Alex P. Keaton, and you can talk about parents all day about what shapes this and what shapes that. My parents did no shaping on me. I've done no shaping on Natalia. I don't know what shaping I've done on Sonny. They just like what they like. They like the music they like. They like the politics they like. They like what they like. It's really hard. Anyone who has a kid and you try to download them with your music or get them not to listen to their music. It's a Herculean task. But anyway, so Sonny's a little conservative, basically. And so we have those conversations again, like, hey, keep it on the down low. You're going to lose a few friends at school. He has like a black friend that doesn't talk to him anymore and stuff like that. And it's like, you get it. We don't want to get you ostracized. And then I started thinking about it, especially in California, but in this day and age, in the ninth grade, entering high school, is conservative the new gay? Because a lot of conversations about don't tell people.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Find out, they're going to come after you. Like, don't say anything. And I thought, being gay now, by the way, is cool because my kids go to school and there's like, oh, this guy's trans this and transitioning that and wants to be known as they or whatever. That's a cool thing now. Like, we're not living in Kentucky or Alabama, but where my kids are, gay is cool. Republican is and conservative is sort of gay 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Just you find out the other gay guy and talk to him.
Well, Sonny has to make sure they know it's not a choice.
Right.
It's funny. My first thought, it's funny you mentioned Kentucky. I think that's a very LA thing to say or to think, because I'm sure there are parts of the world where parts of this world, this country, of course, where it is not only not a negative. And I'm talking about being a Republican or conservative or whatever. It's not only not frowned upon; it's probably celebrated in many pockets.
But
I thought you were talking about being gay.
In some parts, but
it's shameful.
I don't think it's. I don't think it's a lot. I think you'd keep it quiet. I mean, it depends where you were, obviously, but in general.
Chris, put up the last electoral map.
At least on the coast, I would keep it quiet. I would say here's a challenge. The challenge is I mean, it's like you just wouldn't. I mean, I understand. Look, we split the votes basically, so half the country is voting this way, and half the country is voting the other way. I was talking to Dr. Drew about this today, and I said, but if you had a kid, and you said, I'm going to put a Trump hat on him or MAGA hat on him, or just say one that said Trump on it, and then one that just said Biden on it, or Obama, Biden, and Trump, Pence, or whatever that is, and you said, I'm going to spin this wheel, and they're going to land somewhere in this country. It could be in Alabama, but it could be in a subway in New York or the streets of Chicago, or it could be Kentucky or whatever it is. I said to Drew, I think I'd put the Biden hat on him if it was a random roll of a cosmic wheel and they could, like I Dream a Genie, just pop up somewhere. You could be, like I said, you could be in the middle of Chicago, but you could also be in the middle of Alabama or someplace that was more rural or different or red. I still think if you gave me a binary choice, I'd probably put the Biden hat on him. If I was interested in him, like if I thought, like, what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is land in the middle of south side of Chicago or something, right? Like, to me, if I had a random binary choice and I had no idea where they were going to land, I'd put the Biden hat on.
Yeah, if those were your only two choices, you're playing the odds at least. So we're recording this on a Sunday, and it's a couple of days. I don't know what's going to happen the next couple of days. The last couple of polls that came out have Cook Political has him at about Biden at about 8.5 point advantage at the moment. So yes, just playing the odds, you'd want to give yourself the better chance, I guess.
I'm not talking about statistical chance. I'm talking about the chance of someone coming up to him and pulling the hat off, like not getting a vote or winning a vote, but somebody putting their hands on him or getting rowdy with him or whatever. Like if I'm just talking about safety, I'd go with the Biden hat because
I misunderstood.
I think he'd have a better chance. And then school's a version of that. So it's like, don't say anything. But I started thinking about it. It's how we used to talk about being gay. You know what I mean? Just you don't want any trouble. You don't have to not be gay. Just don't.
Have you tried
being a Biden supporter?
Don't talk about it.
Conversion therapy.
So he's heading off to there. You're bringing up, I'm bringing up the presidents of the United States of America at the HF Festival in 1996.
Here's a video of Adam bringing him up. Notice the spelling of Adam's last name. Before we play it, I want to just say Brian is right. Greg Dooley of the Afghan Whigs, known as the voice of John Lennon in Backbeat.
Cool.
Wow. Good
call. The voice of Paul McCartney was Dave Pirner of Soil Asylum. And Dave Grohl was on drums.
Wow.
Nice.
Yep.
Wow, look at that place.
I miss Packed Festival.
Can't be here, but he's in his hotel room with about 15 Filipino hookers.
Look at how they spelled my name. 2 R's and 2
All right,
O's.
Thank you guys for listening to Loveline, but we got a band to bring up. These guys were on the show about 6 months ago. They're funny. They're cool. They're the presidents of the United States of America.
By the way, there were 60,000 people at that. That was the RFK Stadium, and now known as the Washington Sports Club ball team stadium. But I
don't think they play there anymore. Don't they play at FedEx Field?
Oh, probably. You're probably right. I'm sure you're right. One of the conversations I had with Jimmy a million years ago is I was like, I think the presidents of the United States, I think the band, I think they're like a novelty band, right? He's like, oh no, they're going to be around for a long time.
They're going the distance.
Their hits were Lump and Peaches, and maybe they had one other, but I was like, I think they're kind of they're novelty songs, they're not U2 or Nirvana. They're like novelty songs. Like, oh no, these guys are going to stand the test of time. And they're like funny guys and everything, but I don't know what ever happened to them, Max Zapata.
They disbanded in 2015.
They disbanded?
Yeah, but they released 6 studio albums, best known for their hits Lump and Peaches in 95 and 96. But they broke up in 2015.
What were they doing from 2007 to 2015?
Well, they just got the memo, to be fair.
All right. All right. So,
And, Adam, the lineup of that concert also, in addition to Afghan Wigs and No Doubt, Gin Blossoms, Goldfinger, Foo Fighters, Everclear, Garbage, and Jewel.
That's
Wow.
a show.
That's pretty badass right there.
Yeah.
yeah. And
And I like the spelling Adam Carolla.
Corrolla. They got Love Line right. And I guess after that it was right all over to the White House to take a tour with the Afghan Wigs.
Wow.
All right, let's see. Do we have the? You want to play the Rotten Tomatoes game before Brian zooms in?
Listen to that noise. It's a high falsetto voice. It can only mean one thing, and you can feel it.
Got some names of flicks, and the gang makes their picks, guessing if it's rotten or fresh.
If they guess it exactly, we'll get a bonus 5.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game. You know how we do it. Give me the Rotten Tomatoes game. Now it's time to play it.
Well, boss, in honor of your upcoming trip to Washington, D.C., we're dedicating this week's Rotten Tomatoes game to non-political movies that take place in our nation's capital.
Oh, please be backbeat.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. The Die Hard series has bounced around in various cities over the years. Die Hards 1 and 3 take place in L.A. and New York, respectively, but Die Hards 2 and 4 both take place in Washington, D.C. Let's all just pretend Die Hard 5 never happened until we're all massively disappointed by the upcoming Die Hard 6. Let's discuss Die Hard Part 4, where Justin Long joins the cast to help stop a cyber terrorist played by Timothy Olyphant.
That
What year was this?
movie
From 2007, Live Free or Die Hard.
that was one of those movies where law enforcement of any kind didn't exist. Like they would they'd go to the power plant and we're going to dismantle the power plant, or they'd have a shootout in an apartment building that went on for 20 minutes. Like there was never cops. Like it was always just Bruce the whole time. He's just like on his own. And there was never any authorities. Like you just go like, if the terrorists took over a power plant, at some point the U.S. Army would like show up at the power plant, or the cops, or the SWAT team, or like, you can't have an extended shootout in the middle of an apartment building in the middle of a city for an extended period of time. And then like when they were done with the shootout, they just go walking out of the front of the building. Like there shall be cops. I'll tell you the one thing. It's actually the one thing that they never miss in a bank robbery movie. They're always worried about the cops.
Yeah.
Clock is ticking.
Right. They did the other movies, as much as I love like Pulp Fiction, they're just standing in that guy's apartment shooting off shots in his apartment for 45 minutes. No one ever goes like, I think we should get moving about now, right? Like
Maybe it's in Bruce's Rider.
maybe
Pulp
it's
Fiction, Die Hard.
right. All right, this one is bad, man.
I truly hated this movie.
Yeah, I hated it for a lot of different reasons, but all right. So this sucked. But it should be punished a little bit, and it was, I'm sure. But are we talking teens here? I'm gonna say 29.
I'm going to say it's unfairly high at 58.
Whoa. Which one had the tagline "Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Russia"? Because I used to pass that on like on Motor and Pico all the time.
Must have been a good day to Die Hard.
Okay.
I didn't even bother seeing. That's how much I disliked this movie.
Well, I guess I split the difference. I don't know shit about this movie. I said 36.
Live Free or Die Hard is certified fresh
Oh, fuck that.
at 82%.
Shut up.
This is it.
You guys are crazy. This is a great
Game
movie.
over.
No, it's not. This is terrible.
And Gina, you're thinking of the next one, the next Die Hard.
Thank you.
A Good Day to Die Hard.
Okay. Wow.
Wait, this is the one.
I'm
with
not listening to Brian or Adam ever again.
no, it's not good.
This is the one with the Mac guy in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the one where he being Bruce Willis's character, John McClane, turns into a superhero. He's dodging cars and doing superhuman feats.
He took a cop car and launched it at a helicopter.
Right. He's jumping down. And the chick he was fighting was like hanging onto the hood of the car when it went down an elevator shaft and just kept hanging onto the windshield wiper. How could this be 82% with the critics? Is there some theme here about
this
cyberbullying or something?
This is like a rated R version of all the Fast movies. Like
That's the worst part. It's not rated R. I'm almost positive because I think this is the film where he says "Yippee-ki-yay, mother," and then shoots
the
bad guy through his own shoulder, and you can't hear the fucker.
Still sweet.
All right, 82. Well, I'm out before we
really
begin.
like this movie.
All right. Well, very recent podcast guest, Tom Arnold, has a supporting role in this next movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis about what happens when a marriage is built on lies. The film also features a hilarious Bill Paxton, a smoking hot Tia Carrere, and a motorcycle horse chase that never fails to piss Adam off, directed by James Cameron from 1994, True Lies.
I love this movie.
I love this movie too.
It's so good. Paxton's so great.
Oh, he's so great. God, he doesn't get enough credit for this role. Also, I feel like Tom Arnold, I never have the guts to say like Tom Arnold or Jim Belushi or some of these guys who have these kind of cool roles where like I want to go, you can be good in a real movie. Like
he was excellent in this movie.
He was excellent in this movie, right? And we're talking to Jim before about Salvador. Yeah, and it makes you realize, you put the people in the right position, you give them the right script, and they excel. I
pointed out before, master filmmakers, James Cameron, Oliver Stone, these were guys at the top of the craft.
All right, this movie is fun. It's good and fun. Maybe a couple of deduction points on the terrorists being, sort of on the nose, but this was made sort of everything being sort of PC. So we're going to be upset that it wasn't higher, because some action movies just get punished a little bit sometimes. But I'm going to go 83.
Ooh, I'm right there with you, buddy. 86.
86.
True Lies is fresh.
Yes.
That's 71%.
I don't get it.
This is a great. Gina, have you seen this?
I have.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's how could Die Hard 4 be
Oh my God.
12 points ahead?
This is this got some point. This is Schwarzenegger. This is them carving out a few for Schwarzenegger, right? Like, he's not a real actor or whatever.
Oh, you know what? I have a theory. What year was this, Dawson? Do we know?
1994.
Okay, so I think the critics punished Schwarzenegger and James Cameron for going to the well one too many times. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Action. We're kind of past this, blah, blah, blah. But this was a super well executed version of this kind of movie.
Mm-hmm. All right. What else?
The year is 2054. After a controversial pre-crime unit is established,
now
the
we're
murder
talking.
rate in Washington, D.C. has dropped to 0. But how do you arrest someone for a crime they haven't committed? Find out along Tom Cruise in 2002's Minority Report.
I love this movie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I sneakily have this in like Spielberg, like top, maybe not 5, it's certainly top 10.
All right. So it's good. Where's the downside? Like, what did they do? Like, where are we going to deduct points? It's the theme?
Was this anywhere near Tom Cruise's couch meltdown?
Oh.
He jumped up on the sofa.
Oprah, right?
Was he publicly cuckoo yet?
I think he might have been. This is 2002.
The couch was 2005.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
I'm way off.
All right. Look, everyone loved it. But for some reason, action movies just always kind of suffer a little bit. So for that,
Oh, boy.
I'll give it a robust 85.
Oh, man, a little below you at 82.
81.
Minority Report is certified fresh.
Yes.
At 90%.
Wow.
Nice. Oh, I'm very glad to hear that.
And the people have it at 80. Wow.
Wow.
All right. Here
I like
we go.
the only problem. The only problem I have with this movie was they have this fucking amazing pre-crime unit where the murder rate dropped to 0, and then one murder, and then shut the whole thing down. It's like, we're 192 and 1. Let's not throw the baby out the bathwater.
Right.
So who could forget that other Vin Diesel franchise, Triple X? In the first film,
I guess.
Vin stars as Xander Cage, a thrill-seeking
Xander
extreme sports enthusiast sent to Russia to spy for the NSA. But if you thought the first film was crazy, wait until you see the sequel, featuring a script so ridiculous, Vin Diesel didn't even want to be a part of it. Instead, Ice Cube stars as a new Triple X agent sent to Washington, D.C. to stop the Secretary of Defense from staging a military coup against the U.S. We know it sucked, but how low can you go? From 2005, Triple X, State of the Union.
Wow.
It's based on a true story.
Triple X is definitely one of those came up with the title or the poster first. Like Triple X. Yeah, what is that? He's an X Games guy. Oh, yeah, they're good. And what's
Is he really?
Yeah, he like uses his X Games skills to defeat the Ruskies. You know, like I can ride a wheelie on an enduro motorcycle. So, you know, that's how this works, right? Like
He took a food tray and board slid down a stair rail with it.
Like if
pretty
only
good.
Henry Kissinger had mad X Games skills, we could have mopped up in the Middle East, you know, and China. We take care of these people. They physically had the ability to, you know, ride a toboggan or do a backflip on a skateboard or ride the half pipe on a snowboard. So it's like, this is kind of like, remember I was pitching my movie Rings of Honor, where the Olympic guys were trapped in the Olympic Village with the terrorists, and they had to use like all their skills, pole vaulting and shot put the bomb over the window and stuff like to get away. This is basically 2 hours of that.
Adam. So you not only was the title that came first before the script, but in July 2001, Vin Diesel was attached to receive around $10 million to star in the film. 1 month later, Sony put a large billboard of Triple X in Hollywood before a script had been written.
I told you they came up with this shit before. All right, this is horrible. And now the question is this: I got to make up some points. I got to go small or go home. And for that reason, I'm going to say 4.
Oh, shit. 22. I may have been ambitious on this one.
4.
You said 4?
4.
Jesus.
Triple X, State of the Union is rotten
What?
at 17.
Oh, I needed that.
Damn you, Dawson.
Man. Damn you.
Finally, it's impossible to talk about Washington, D.C. without addressing all of our nation's hidden secrets. Believe it or not, our founding fathers actually assembled the greatest treasure the world has ever known. And only one man can put the clues together. None other than Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
By the way, I hope you're ready for National Treasure 3 and a TV series, both coming to Disney+. But in the meantime, let's talk about the first film from 2004, National Treasure.
Have we done this one? No.
I don't know.
I assume we cross-reference and check.
This movie was a big deal, though. I mean, this got hype like crazy.
I never saw it, and I actually heard it was okay.
Yeah, these
Shocking,
kind of movies are fun. You know, when Cage kind of gets the right script and it can be a little bit funny and the action and all that kind of stuff. It's like fun. It's got some adventure and it's got some comedy in it, and you know all that good stuff. And Voight was good in it. And it was like perfectly watchable. It's now obviously the critics don't like this kind of stuff, but it delivered on what it promised. Whatever it said it was going to be, it was. So with that in mind, let's see. Is this our last one, Dawson?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, I got some making up to do because I'm behind. And I got to go boldish here. Critics didn't like Cage at this point. They don't like these kinds of movies, but maybe there's a surprise. And I say 79.
Yeah, I played it a little safe. 61.
I also said 61.
National Treasure is rotten at 46%.
Okay.
Well, the people have it at 76, so I went high. Should have gone low.
Gina Grad.
Uh-huh.
Congratulations. Once again, you made the podium.
Thank you.
Adam Carolla, your score of 116.
Whoa.
Puts you comfortably in third place.
All right.
Gina with a score of 98, and the win, of course, to Brian, 67.
Nice.
Of course.
Of course.
Oh,
Brian,
pretty dominating.
You
Brian
can follow that math as we went. That was a very easy one to score.
Gina has put together a couple of weeks, albeit
Yeah.
sporadic over the course of the
Sporadic.
year. I've
Keep
done a
getting
few,
toes.
but Brian is back. I mean, Brian hit, Brian, you know what? He's like one of these fighters that got bored because he was a little bit dominant. So he started drinking a little too much. He didn't work out as hard and he got bored. And before you know it, but then he got caught. You know what I mean? He got caught.
He got humbled.
And he got humbled a little, but now he's back to form and he's mopping up because I feel like Brian must. Have you won like 5 of the last 6? Or
I figure like it's at least 3. I don't honestly know. I feel like it's at least 3, but yeah, it could be a good streak.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game. You know how we do it.
All right, we're going to talk to Brian Baumgartner from The Office. And also, I'm trying to think, what else do we know him from?
How is Sonny not here tonight?
I know Sonny's all up in. Sonny and Natalia are all into The Office. All the kids are in The Office. Well, there's good shows. I mean, they get good. I mean, they understand. They love. Sonny likes The Family Guy. He loves The Simpsons. He loves The Office. That Natalia loves The Office. They love Friends. Like. I had to sit there and watch a lot of reruns of I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched and Brady Bunch and stuff. It's like there's people moving on the TV, but it's not good. I didn't think it was good.
Gina's quite a bit younger than me, so maybe you had better shows to choose from. But when I was growing up, like a younger kid, and it would all be, I think I were Silver Spoons reruns, Mama's Family reruns, shows that would confuse me. I wouldn't dislike that. I did dislike it, but I wasn't so much angry as I was do people watch this and laugh?
Well, and talk about confusing when I was very, very little, and Webster and Alf.
Oh.
Mr. Belvedere.
Mr. Belvedere. I always identified those as grown-up shows. Those didn't even feel like kid show. I didn't even know what to do with Webster.
Yeah, Webster with Alex Karras, and there was
yes, Webster. I was like, am I supposed to enjoy this?
Good theme song, though.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of shitty. It's almost when at some point sitcoms went to video, went from film to video or whatever they did. They looked weird and all the colors started getting pastel-y and the mom's hair got big.
Yep.
Everyone got 80s out and it was just unfunny at all. I think there was an era in LA when Coke was so prevalent that people stopped being funny. They became prolific, but they were not funny anymore. You look at the architecture, you listen to the music symphonic drums, and flock of seagulls. And I think this is all Coke based. Because when they drank Jack Daniels and smoked weed, the music was so much fucking better and the sitcoms were better. Everything was just better. And then they got kind of coffeeed up and coked up. They got way into the lattes and way into the booger sugar. And every art form suffered. Architecture was shit. Cars were shit. Everything they could design, every sitcom, music. I mean, you listen to some of that 80s shit. It's all synthed out and fake drums and blah.
Although go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I guess it makes sense because I was thinking about this the other day and I was not on drugs. So this is a great drug conversation. When do you think the last time America was truly happy just happy. And I was thinking about that and going through, what I think. And I think it's got to be the mid to late 80s. That's the last time we as a country were happy. So I imagine those things, there's a reason for that with the Coke.
Yeah, the sitcoms, when I grew up, I was watching, All in the Family and Good Times and Sanford and Son and Maude and stuff like that. They were like really gritty kind of this problem. We got the oil problem, we got Nixon in the office, we got Vietnam, and it was great for folk songs, and it was great for Norman Lear,
Yeah.
And then we got to the 80s, and it was like, let's make everything look like I'm trying to think of who is the artist I'm thinking of?
Oh, Nagel?
Nagel, please. Yes, a Nagel painting, and we'll have Duran Duran, and like everyone has hair, and everyone's like pastelly, and everyone looked like they were singing in Prince's backup band or something, and everything got super tinny. You know what I mean? Like the music got tinny, the plots got tinny. There's like, she has a drug problem. She's eating too many appetite suppressants. It's like, that's not a drug problem. Yeah, I mean, it's like everything became very superficial. I don't know if I can't even explain. Everything felt like a veneer. You know what I mean? Like you take a look at All in the Family, and it's like Archie Bunker had this depth and this kind of stuff to him, there's just like there was a lot there. And then everything just become real tinny in the 80s. Yes, Brian.
It's funny that you equated I briefly like Alf and stuff like that with cocaine, because there's a movie, and this actually is going to be a fuzzy memory, but I think Chris can verify maybe after the break. There's a movie called Permanent Midnight with Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
And I think a rare serious role for Ben Stiller early in his career. And he plays a real life screenwriter, Jerry Stahl, who, became addicted to drugs, wrote the biography. And I'm pretty sure there's a scene where he's high out of his mind on either coke or crack, and he goes into a pitch meeting, and he's basically pitching Alf, and they buy it because he's like a really successful writer. But like he's out of his mind, sweating and bug-eyed and going like, and there's this alien. Anyway, Chris can verify that, but it's funny that you equated that sort of whole scene with Alf.
It was bad. It was bad for fashion. It was bad for music. It was bad for cars. It was bad for architecture. It was just a bad, weird.
But why don't we ever know it at the time? I'm plagued by this all the time, thinking, are we in a shitty era and we just don't see it like aesthetically?
Yes.
Like, why don't we know?
Well, I don't like to talk about myself, but the way you can tell is if you go back and look at any picture of me, I never had that hair. I never went. The hair is the tell, because the hair is the easiest to change and the fastest to change and the fastest way to enter that. Oh, I'm just going to look like I'm in the band The Romantics, And I always just have had the same haircut because I did have friends, and the friends were getting like, from a fashion standpoint, it's like the pants that were cinched up at the bottom, or the guys that were going with the kind of Duran Duran look, or whatever it is. Now, meanwhile, I didn't have the hair or the wallet that could pull off anything, so I just
two vital ingredients. Pretty
much just T-shirts and Levi's guy, but I never made the move. Like, I used to look at this stuff. I used to listen to this stuff, and at the time I would go sort of like I do with cars. Like, this car is cool. It's going to stand the test of time. That Fiero is going to be laughed at in a few years. And that's kind of how I was. But it is nice now that kids can go back and have a shot at The Office versus having a shot at Alf. And yes, Brian is right, but they called him Mr.
Chompers.
Mr. Chompers instead of Alf. Although I did secretly like Alf. All right, let me bring back Bronco, and then we'll talk to Brian Baumgartner right after this. New podcast, and it covers the rise and fall and the rebirth of the Ford Bronco. Bring Back Bronco, the untold story. 8-part series, dives into the Broncos' 50-year odyssey from the post-war boom to the O.J. chase, and then this year's rebirth. Host Sonny Clinton goes on the road, and he takes a lot of takes road trips and finds out why they killed the Bronco. Also, I got a sneak preview of this, and it's riveting, especially if you like cars. I love cars. And the Bronco's back, by the way. Search for Bring Back Bronco anywhere you listen to podcasts. We'll include a link in the show's notes if you want to check it out. And thanks to Bring Back Bronco for their support for this program. All right, let's take a quickie break, and we'll be back with Brian Baumgartner right after this.
The Adam Carolla Show presents Brian Baumgartner's birthday cocktail party for November 29th. Let's see who's here. All-around cool chick, Anna Ferris. Seahawk quarterback, Russell Wilson. The Lion, the Witch, and the... Oh, no, it's just C.S. Lewis. Howie Mandel is here. Try to shake his hand. We welcome Don Cheadle, the author of Little Women, Louisa May Alcott. Cohen brother Joel Cohen. And to call the whole party, the legendary Vin Scully. Plus, on a sad note, Chadwick Boseman. Now back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Wow, Chadwick Boseman. Jeez.
What a coincidence.
Wow. That is a good party you got going there, Brian Baumgartner. Thanks for joining us. The podcast is an oral history of The Office. It's available exclusively on Spotify. And good to talk to you, Brian.
Nice to talk to you, Adam. How are you?
I'm well. It must be nice to see so many people appreciating The Office even after it's been off the air for a number of years, and especially my 14-year-old twins who've been watching it for years and like pumped, just excited that you're going to be on the show.
Well, that's kind of why I started the podcast, because, you know, we were the number one scripted show on NBC for most of the time we were on, right? 10 years, 9 seasons. But, you know, in talking over the last 18 months to 2 years, the show is way bigger now than it ever was when it was on the air. And the numbers, as we started getting them in, are staggering. I mean, first there's like anecdotal evidence, right? There's like airport evidence, which is like, way more people are paying attention to me now in the airport or the grocery store or whatever. But the numbers they started measuring streaming in 2017. 2018, over 52 billion minutes were streamed on Netflix. And then the first day of the pandemic here, like what's considered the first day, March 15th, which was a Sunday, over 250 million minutes in one day are watching The Office. And so we haven't filmed anything in 7 years. And we're, by basically any measurement, the most watched show in television today, which is insane.
You know, no matter what we talk about, you know, we're always talking about being exposed to this or online that or whatever form of advertising or whatever we're talking about, but word of mouth, there is no substitute. You can't buy it. You couldn't even buy a millionth of it. It's all word of mouth. I mean, of course it is. There's no active campaign. You know, you don't see commercials on NBC or this is literally somebody seeing it going, you must see this thing that I saw. And when that really is firing on all cylinders, it's explosive, and there's no amount of billboards and there's no amount of dragging the banner behind the plane in front of the goers to the beach, or there's just no way to buy that, and there's no way to create that. It's just word of mouth. So the product, obviously, it's such a tip of the cap to the product because it's impossible to do this minus the product. It's not a, you know, Korean boy band or something where you could just hype the shit out of it.
Right. Yeah, and actually your twins, 14 years old, that was like a driving force, not just me starting the podcast, but like all of us, which is like, why are kids, and they're younger and younger, why are they watching it? I mean, it was always kind of a college show, right? Maybe a little bit high school, but now you've got junior high and you've got these kids watching it. And it's insane. I mean, I know that what you're saying is exactly right. It's word of mouth. And so it becomes like, well, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And all of their friends have to see it. I think, in putting this together and talking to all these people for the show, there was something that, at least for me, was interesting. When we were on the air, and I don't remember what the stat is, but there's like 200 million people that work in offices in America, right? And I remember actively when we were struggling to stay on the air, we were like, well, if just a percentage of people who work in offices are watching, then we're gonna be okay. Like everything's gonna be good. It was never about the kids. And I think, a couple of people brought this up to me, and I think it's very interesting, which is that the parallels between the office, working in an office, and having to go to school every day is really like an unreasonable boss / teacher that makes you do things you don't really want to do. And you got to sit next to people you maybe don't want to sit next to. And there's the cool kids with the romance and all that stuff, that it's so relatable, I think, to kids who are stuck in school. I think that we never realized when we were making it.
Kids also want to enjoy comedy that may be a little above their pay grade. I mean, words, scenarios, like they want to be challenged a little bit. I think we try to dumb things down for kids, but kids would much rather look at a superior product that they only got 70% of the meaning of. They didn't
Right.
get all the references. When you watch, I watched a Family Guy with my son. I know he's not getting a reference to the Partridge Family or to Molly Ringwald, from the 80s. I got called into the room. He's like, "Dad, you're playing death in this episode of the Family Guy." And I somehow Molly Ringwald is there. And I go, all right, you're good for now, Molly, but I'm taking your career or something like that. And I know my son doesn't get the reference to how popular Molly Ringwald was in the early 80s and blah, blah, blah career. But that's okay. He wants to, he's 70% and he wants to get to 75%. This part where you spoon feed it to them and they get it, but it's not that good. They don't want that.
Right.
Sorry, Brian.
Yeah,
or Brian Bishop. Sorry, you were going to say something?
Brian, before you take it away, I was thinking the exact same thing, Adam, which is I think kids these days are more sophisticated comedically. Like in my day, I had to record SNL and to set the VCR for, whatever time it was, 11:30 p.m. And I didn't understand the nuances of Dana Carvey's George H.W. Bush. It was funny. I understood that it was funny, but I didn't get what he would make a joke about policy or whatever. But I wonder if it's because partly there's just so much access to good comedy. We were bemoaning, the reruns we used to have to watch, but the kids can watch, The Office on Netflix or on Peacock coming up soon, or there's jokes on their Twitter feed that's just constantly coming at them from comedians.
Right. Yeah. I think also that there's, which you kind of are touching on too. I think that it's maybe a little bit above their understanding, but also they understand that it's subversive in a way, and subversive is cool, right? Like, like they're
talking back to the teacher essentially.
Yeah, they're talking back to the teacher, or the teacher is an idiot or is saying idiotic things, right? So I think that's a part of it as well, for sure.
Gina's the world's biggest Office fan, so she should. I'll be allotted some time to ask some questions, or possibly heap praise.
I know that everybody says they are, but I'm gonna clear it up for you right now because it's me. Everybody thinks they're the biggest Office fan, and of course everybody loves Kevin. Everybody gets something different out of that character. And I know, they've maybe not recently, but in the past few years, released some audition tapes from some people. And I think I saw Seth Rogen auditioning for the character of Dwight, and all these things that that now you just think, no, it has to be who we know it is. That of course that's who the character is. I'm wondering if what you knew about the character of Kevin. Did you know you were auditioning for Kevin? Did you know who Kevin was supposed to be?
So Yes. So I was actually a huge fan of the British version of The Office, right? And they're like, it's the one. I don't have very many smart things to say, but if anybody who's like wanting to be an actor or the one bit of advice that I give them that certainly I feel like it has, paid off for me is just watch television. Like if you want to work in television, like watch television, watch movies, because if you get a meeting or an audition or whatever, and you don't understand what the humor is or what the style is or how it's shot, like that's just always going to help. So I was a huge fan of it, and actually was called in by the great Allison Jones, who cast The Office. Yeah. She did Freaks and Geeks and like 100,000 other shows, all the Judd Apatow stuff, basically. And she had me reading for the role of Stanley, actually. And I knew that part was not for me, but I knew that the part of Kevin, which was Keith in the original, that was. So I actually, when I auditioned for Stanley as though I were playing Kevin, and left the room. And I was like, well, that was the only gamble I felt like I could take. And luckily she ran after me and had me come back in. But what you were talking about Seth Rogen and stuff, when Steve Carell left the show, Allison Jones came, there was a party and whatever. And she came to me and she's like, I was looking for like mementos to give to Steve, like from the first auditions or whatever. And she goes, I didn't really find that much, but I found something I thought that you would find interesting. And she hands me a piece of paper, and it basically like finalists for Kevin Malone. And there's me, there's Eric Stonestreet, who obviously ended up
Modern Family.
Actually, as Rain said, is way richer than I am now. and Jorge Garcia, who ended up getting lost and other things as well. So that was a cool piece for me. Those were the three guys, and everybody ended up going on and doing something.
That's a good crew. And, when I know that this has come up and, this gets referenced sometimes, but there are episodes of The Office that I know it's a recent show, but we're so far into the future in some ways that people say for good reason that episode couldn't get made today, or that one wouldn't re-air today. And I'm wondering if there's one that sticks out at you. The one that sticks out at me is Holly thinking that Kevin is mentally challenged, and that being the joke. And it's a great episode, and it's poor Holly. Your heart breaks for her when she realizes that everyone's been making fun of her and fun of Kevin, saying, "Oh, did you think I'm retarded?" And what a big reveal that sort of was, but how that would never air today, and certainly that language wouldn't be used. That language would probably not be used. Yeah, and who knows if it would. I mean, we've been talking about this a lot a sex blow up doll in like our 8th episode or whatever. And, our second episode, Michael doing the Chris Rock routine. I mean, in the show, Larry Wilmore screaming at him to stop. Exactly. And there's a lot made of it. I think the show would be different. And I think actually what the show, Steve Carell and I were talking about this for the podcast, but I think that there's a possibility that part of what would be being poked fun at, which is not so prevalent in the show, is the idea of the woke culture now. I think that there would actually be some of the parody would be about that and how maybe we've moved too far in terms of that. But I don't know. I always say like NBC's like they probably have one person who just counts all the money the show's still making. So I mean, to say that the show would never get made now, that always kind of makes me laugh. Like, I don't know, somebody would do it. It might not be NBC, it might not be broadcast television, but I'm proud of the issues and things that we talked about in that show, and I know it would be tough now, but I'm pretty proud of it. And someone actually told me recently, I had kind of forgotten or didn't realize when I rewatched it fairly recently, but there's a Hillary Clinton and a Donald Trump joke in the pilot of the show, which was 2004.
Wow.
That's pretty prescient. Yeah.
What's the what's the state of Hollywood these days? Like, are you going out? I mean, there's no real auditions anymore. Is there stuff that's lined up? Are you traveling to do stuff? Do they look at you as the office guy? Like, that used to be a big deal. You'd be that guy from that sitcom, but obviously so many people look at John, from,
right.
Yeah, I mean, they've gone on and done so many varied things these days, so maybe the rules don't apply anymore. What do you think?
I think that, I certainly recently have done more, other than like an occasional guest star stuff in television. I've done some more film. I'm doing a lot of animated stuff actually right now. And then like specific, what I thought you were talking about is like specifically right now. There's nothing happening right now in terms of, the global pandemic that we're all going through.
When is the, you always have the kind of just to bring it back to the pandemic, they go, well, they have the pool party or the rave or whatever it is, and then, you have to wait 2 weeks, and then that's when the infections go up. And it's like, we're kind of getting to the point now where we've waited 2 weeks for productions. I mean, how thin are these movies going to start getting? Like, when we can't go see movies now, so we're not really feeling it. But is there going to be a big vacuum of movies? Like, are we going to have summer blockbusters this coming summer? Like, yes,
the movies are going to be stockpiled because of exactly what you said.
Oh, yeah.
Because basically, what didn't come out, like, well, you talked about John Krasinski, right? There's Quiet Place 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think it was like 10 days from opening, or maybe they had the premiere, because I was with him in New York. Like, it was very close, and then they didn't open it. So whenever this is done, that'll get slotted back in. But television is where you're really going to feel it, because there was essentially, all of the pilots, which, to those who don't know, like the new shows to be on the air, which kind of starts in September, those new shows didn't get made. Now, I specifically am meeting for a show tomorrow, actually. So I don't know what the status is of production, and I've heard rumors that they're talking about in September, and they're talking about like what they're doing in sports, which is that the actors are going to be tested 3 times a week. That's what I heard.
Like porn stars.
Yeah,
like porn stars. Yes, but I wouldn't know anything about that.
Where did you physically shoot The Office?
Panorama City.
Oh, Panorama City. Wow,
Panorama.
Oh boy, that's
Weren't
rough.
you in Culver at one point? Were you in Culver City?
The first season, yeah. So the set, there's an independent soundstage in Culver City, Culver Studios, I think is what it's called. And the soundstage, we had lunch on and played basketball and like had shenanigans. And then where we shot were the production offices, which were upstairs. And it looked like what the set of The Office looks like. And then there were some practical difficulties of doing it that way for an extended period of time. So when we came back the second year, so the first 6 episodes were filmed there. Starting the after that, we were on a soundstage in Van Nuys.
Props to the set and the set crew and the design, because I have looked to try and figure out the differences. Looks exactly the same. There's no way to tell.
Yeah.
Brian B. Oh, wait, you're both Brian B.
You're both Brian B.
Oh, God. All right.
Just call one of us bald.
Oh, no, Brian with an I. Good Brian, regular Brian. Brian with an I, not a Y. So, I've been through the system a few times with the pilots and the sitcoms and the notes and the ladies at lunch, and everyone's got an opinion, and it's really the enemy of comedy. It's a whole bunch of groups of people who everyone has an opinion, and it all just hurts the art of comedy. It would hurt look, it would hurt painting as well if 13
Yes.
untalented painters stood behind the guy who was painting and gave notes during each brushstroke. It would.
That line is too far out. Move that. Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't write a poem that way. You couldn't write a song that way. There's nothing you could do with a group of people. And then, all right, when you're done with the painting, let us approve it, and we'll give you notes on it. Then you can change the painting. We'll give it back to you. Like, you could imagine trying to do anything by committee, but that's how sitcoms work. And you know, especially when you're not a ratings bonanza, because when you're not a ratings bonanza, all that does is open the door to more opinions. Now they want to get in, and they sort of become like a team that's like lost its first 3 games. You're not saying stay the course, don't worry. You start firing people and coming up. We're going to start running out of the wishbone now, and you start coming up with plans, right? And so.
Right.
I know that, and it's always it always just hurts the product. Now, The Office is such a pure product, and somehow you're able to withstand that, even in the face of not being a ratings blockbuster. Is it that we had the template from England? Is it that it existed? Because when you got to realize when you do a sitcom that doesn't exist, then they'll go, well, why don't we just get rid of that guy and replace him with Dolph Lundgren? That guy's good looking.
Right.
You know, like they'll
Right.
fire this person. They'll do anything.
Right.
But you guys had a sort of a grandfathered in. Did that play into it?
So so part of this I knew, part of this I actually just learned and talking to Greg Daniels, who is the creator of our show. He did 2 things genius. One is he had a bunch of ideas for what the pilot should be. And one of them actually was the Dundies, which was basically became the episode The Dundies, which was the first episode of the 2nd season. And he decided to do exactly what you're saying, that he said, well, the British show now was such a hit. If I basically use their script, I can avoid a shit ton of notes. Mm-hmm. And so the pilot of our show is the only episode, but that pilot stayed very, very, it was basically an American version, meaning the words sounded different in a lot of, and like Hillary Clinton was a joke instead of Camilla Parker Bowles. Like I remember that one specifically, like in the British script. So there were American references. And what that allowed him to do, he believes, was basically say, okay, my job as creator is I'm going to create the world. I'm going to find the people. I'm going to find the look, what the architecture of the space is, how everybody interacts with everybody, and begin to see that and begin building the world that we want to do. And so in a lot of ways, he wasn't trying to do all of those things at the same time, you know, write a script where he's always going to do is get notes about script or about, you know, my hairline or whatever, things aren't going well. And then the crazy thing was, I believe this, that it was so unpopular to start. They pick it up, but they pick it up for 6 episodes, which is like, and we talk about this in the podcast, but a lot of people don't know. In the 2nd season, they actually only picked us up for 6 more episodes. And we really, after 12, thought we were done. But what it did was the executives were like, I don't want any piece of that show. And they stayed away. And we were in Culver Studios down in the middle of Culver City. And then we went to Panorama City. And the guys in Burbank were like, yeah, we're good here on the lot. Like, you guys go do your thing. We'll piddle around for a while. And then, you know, we'll cancel it and we'll move on to something else. We'll find the next friends. And so I think, Adam, that is really what happened, that he was able to kind of do what you're saying, like hide behind the script and say, well, it was fun. It worked. Like, let that work. He was able to focus on that. And then when it wasn't doing well, as opposed to coming in and firing everyone, they were just like, well, we're just going to let it die.
You know, it's funny. Anyone who knows the lay of the land here, Panorama City, it's like, you don't want to go there.
Not panoramic.
It's way off the beaten path. If your Nana's in the hospital over there at Kaiser, maybe. But even then, do it during the day. Like, don't go at night. And it's so true. Like, some of this stuff is literally I don't want to go to this place and supervise. If you guys were shooting out in Malibu, I'd be hanging out, but you're not, and I don't want to go to Panorama City. And it's interesting how much of that nuance works into this stuff. I get a note here that I forgot. Oscar Nunez was my stand-in in the Man Show. I forgot about, and Oscar.
It's Oscar.
He was my stand-in. He was always a nice guy. I'm glad I was nice to him. But it also, as I start thinking about the cast and the ones that that I know a little bit, everyone is very friendly, and I don't think it's possible to pull this off, right? Unless there's that kind of good vibe, right? You couldn't do this with feuding whoever's or. There's some of that vitriol that gets into everything. Is it possible to do it without that vibe?
Not this show, because, again, I don't want to go like too inside baseball if people aren't aware, but, you have a regular show and there's what we call number one on the call sheet, right? So there's the lead, and the lead is there working 50, 60 hours a week, depending on whatever the show is. And everybody else kind of shows up, does a scene or two, and they go home. In this show, because of the way it was shot, the camera's always moving around. There's no walls that can be moved. We're all in that space all the time. So we're all working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. We're all there working the hours as what would be the lead on another show. And so I think that it did two things. One, it forced us to get along, but two, because you had people like Oscar Nunez and Angela Kinsey and Steve Carell, who came really from improv. And then you had BJ Novak and Craig Robinson. And I'm not going to list everybody, but, who came from stand-up comedy. And then you had Rainn Wilson and myself, who were like straight theater guys, like interested in creating characters and not even really comedy. And so like forcing us all into that space and being together for hour after hour, all day, every day, there was a bond that was made. That is undeniable. And I do think that, I do think it's why people respond to the show. A reason. I think you see that the people genuinely care about each other. And even Michael Scott, Steve Carell, he says asinine things, but everybody's kind of good to each other. There's not a lot of hate. And the second thing is that, which I talk about in the podcast quite a bit, is that, there were a lot of us who were, I was actually quite young for real when we started the show, but people who had begun to live a life in this business, and there weren't no stars. 40-Year-Old Virgin didn't happen until our second season. Steve Carell wasn't a star. Rainn Wilson had done a little thing on 6 Feet Under for a season. Yeah, for a season and recurring, and nobody knew John Krasinski or Jenna Fisher or me or whoever else. Melora Hardin, who plays Jan, the lore was always she had done 14 pilots. None of them had ever gone. She corrected me slightly, like some had done a couple of episodes or whatever, but like nobody. And so it was like, no one was jaded. There was no jadedness. It was all like, we're happy to be working. And thank the Lord we were working, happy to be working. And we all felt like we were working on something good and special. So, that dynamic,
because anyone who's worked on a set knows, like, you don't show up on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then you show up at noon on Friday and you shoot your thing and then you leave, or you shoot your thing at 10 in the morning and then you go back to your trailer and you sit in your trailer and argue with someone over the phone, and then you come back and shoot your next thing after lunch. But you don't hang out together because we don't need you hanging out together. This is the scene in the bedroom with the husband and the wife, and we don't need the kids. But it's so true when you're just doing that group thing, you need you in the background at your station, and that would inevitably create that kind of camaraderie that then ends up translating in through the lens. Yes, Gina.
Yeah, I always thought it must be, for lack of a better word, humbling or grounding. Every time there's a talking head, you are just in the background working, going to the copy machine, sitting around, look, and that's so different because you're not even in the room where anything's happening. But the talking heads are the when they pull someone aside, and for anyone who doesn't know, and you have your moment, and everybody is in the background still working. Was it sort of taxing to go, really? I'm not even in the same room, but you might see me through the window.
Yeah, I will tell you, the guy who drew the shortest straw of all was Leslie David Baker, who played Stanley, who is specifically in the background.
In that exact eye line.
Creed, sometimes a lot, where most of the stuff, Phyllis, some. I got hit sometimes if there was a scene happening in Michael's office out those windows. Yeah, those were weird. I mean, let's be honest. There was not a lot of in character stuff. There was way more shenanigans happening.
Right. All right. Brian with an I, you want to hang with us and go into the news segment?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, good. All right.
Talking about?
Let me hit Madison Reed Mr. here. Madison Reed, we know them. They make the hair coloring. They made it for women initially, and they made a great product. And my wife, Lynette, uses it as well. And so they went, well, what about the fellas? And then someone said, well, what about Madison Reed Mister? It blends the gray, looks very natural. You can use it on your hair. Use it on your beard. It doesn't have the shoe polish look. The kit, you pick out your color online, and then the kit shows up, and you put the gloves on, and then you just put a little of the color gel, and you just sort of take your fingers and comb it through your hair. And then you take the activator, same deal, rub it around, a little dollop on, rub it through your hair, and then let it sit for 10 minutes, and then rinse it out. Very natural. I use it. Why shouldn't you? Madison Reed Mr. Right, Dawson?
Go to MadisonReedMr.com. That's MadisonReedMR.com and use code Carolla for 10% off plus free shipping on your first box. Again, that's code Carolla.
All right, let's take a quick break. Brian Baumgartner is going to hang in with us, and we'll do the news right after this.
Give me the news with Grad, news with Gina Grad, breaking viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina Grad, trouble in the Middle East, celebrity drunk meltdowns. Need news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, Jeff Bezos was already the richest man. Now he's setting another money record. Last week, the Amazon CEO's wealth reached $202 billion. That's up about $87 billion from January. And I'm sure you can guess why there's been such a spike in people staying home and ordering products off of Amazon. That's been huge for him. He isn't alone. Other tech tycoons have been getting much richer throughout this pandemic. Earlier this month, Mark Zuckerberg was dubbed a centabillionaire.
You know what? Can I say this? You know what the kids are going to miss with all the Amazon shopping? It's the way every store was specific and had its own smell. Like when you go in to buy tires, that place smelled like the tire store.
That's
right. Freshly minted vulcanized rubber. And there was a store. There's a store like the Five and Dime had its own kind of weird smell.
Musty.
A little musty meets defeated. Yes.
You won't know this, but bookstores had their own smell too.
What do you call that one?
Yeah, they sold books before Amazon.
Who's buying books?
It sounds crazy, I know.
What do you think Amazon sold when they started?
A lot of people, actually.
It was a forest originally, and then they got into selling tchotchkes. Bookstores, magazines, like the places had their own kind of smell to them. Like they didn't have... Yeah, they didn't.
Shoes.
Yeah, it smelled like leather. And it's like
record stores,
record stores. Yeah, and you'd walk in, and it wasn't like overwhelming. It's not like you're going to a bakery or something. You just kind of go in and go, yeah, this smells like a record store, or a shoe store. And it smelled right. It was kind of part of it. You know what I mean?
Are kids officially done going to the mall from here on out?
Yeah, I mean, I was.
Oh my God.
Well,
They'll come back.
I was in the mall in Texas in San Antonio about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I got a haircut there.
But was it bustling?
You know what? There were people in there, and they were
Okay.
moving around. I don't know. It kind of strikes me that there's a group that kind of treats the mall like it's an amusement park. Like, hey, you want to go out and do something, and you want to do it in air conditioning, and you want to get some free samples. Like it's a poor man's amusement park. Like, here we go, ride the escalator to your heart's content. You know, so
great for toddlers.
Yeah, so
the escalator up and down, please.
I'm wondering if the upscale people are done with the mall. I feel like they're home shopping on whatever, Wayfair or whatever they're doing. But this had a little more of a working man's mall, but it was in San Antonio, so maybe it's different than LA, but they were out there.
That's the smell of like stale popcorn, a little caramel corn in the air, maybe a whiff of Cinnabon.
Yeah, or candle shop or something like
Yankee
that.
Candle,
Yeah.
sure. So the man that shot and killed John Lennon in 1980 was denied for parole for the 11th time.
Mark David Chapman's still alive?
He's still alive. He's 65 years young and serving 20 to life, for prison for shooting Lennon. Chapman will serve his sentence for at least 2 more years before his next hearing, August 2022. The spokesperson for him would not provide any details why he was denied release, but he did say that he felt more and more shame as the years passed, because I think he is getting to the point where he knows he's going to be denied parole.
His character, I always think about that story because I always think about him, Mark David Chapman, on the beach in maybe Maui or Honolulu. He was on a Hawaiian island. He'd committed to kill himself. He'd parked his car and was doing the old asphyxiation with the exhaust pipe thing, and he was just going to watch the sunrise or something and kill himself in the wee dawn hours. And a surf fisherman, a guy who was there to fish, I don't know who these guys are who surf. They surf like where you stand, you know what I mean? Like where you ride a zippy board. Like, I don't know. So it seems like the worst kind of the thing about fishing is it's okay to fish from a pier. It's cooler to fish from a boat, like a deep sea boat. But these guys are standing in the sand. Yeah. I've never seen those guys be successful. Anyway, one of those guys comes around, finds him, pulls the hose out, gets him to a hospital, brings him back to life. And then, 5 years later, he shoots John Lennon. And it's got to be weird, right? The guy who was your assassin, if that guy didn't happen upon him, we wouldn't know any of this story, right? I mean,
no.
Right.
So it's so bizarre how life can be.
It's like that. It's like what's the thing with Hitler, right? If you knew that Hitler would become Hitler when he's a boy, would it be okay to kill him as a boy?
Oh yeah,
Isn't that sort of relate?
I would. It'd be okay to leave the guy in the car and let him take himself out. It'd be okay for take out Hitler. I think he went to the hospital. He went to an institution or something. He ended up working at the institution he was at. He became the hair club guy. I love, I'm
also a member.
Or maybe it's the Remington guy who I love the company so much I bought it. Or was it Remington? What was the razor
I was thinking
one?
of the hair club for men.
Norelco or something.
Right.
Either way, he then worked there for a while. Then he went to New York, I think, and shot John Lennon.
On December 8th, 1980. And Lennon signed his newly released Double Fantasy album for Chapman. Hours before, Chapman shot him 4 times in the back, and he was arrested without incident, pleaded guilty to the shooting, and that was that.
There's a picture of him signing the album with Chapman in the picture. It's haunting.
The guy who shot Reagan, that guy was paroled and with his... There was some story
Did Jodie
about
Foster have feelings about that?
John Hinckley.
Yeah, Hinckley. I think or there's a big push to get him back home or having weekend visits or something, or some story.
Reagan pardoned him or something. There was something like in the immediate aftermath.
Mm-hmm.
Did Jody make a statement about that in terms of his parole?
Oh, that media whore, Jodie Foster. She's always making a statement. She's like
she loves the limelight.
She's like,
Whatever channel.
She's officially a Kardashian. I saw her. I saw her TikTok. God, she drops one every 15 minutes.
I know she's so played out,
shaking her moneymaker. I don't know if she made a statement.
I know she had a statement about that. I mean, for or against him being paroled.
I don't know. I don't know how it works, but I seem to remember he was, or at least he had some sort of weekend visitation or some sort of weird plan. Anyway, look, if you're going to shoot somebody, shoot a gangbanger. You can't shoot John Lennon. I mean, nobody loves John Lennon more. First off, he's not even from here, and he's like our favorite American, Yeah. You can't shoot that guy and ever expect to be paroled, because whoever grants you the parole is going to then become a pariah. You can't have that. You gotta shoot a gangbanger or drug dealer or something like that. Then maybe, or like an abusive husband or something.
Sure.
Got to think about that. Yes. Now, look, you shoot Ringo. We can talk. I don't mean now. I just
Ringo's almost all we have.
That's true. That's
you
true.
can shoot Pete Best.
Yeah, shoot Pete Best, and then we can talk. Right. Sorry.
So the California's popular ski resort is getting a name change, and we're all learning a little history lesson on why this is an inappropriate word. Squaw Valley Ski Resort will be no longer. Do you know why squaw is derogatory? Anybody?
Because it's 2020 and we're out of problems, so we're just fucking chewing on our own legs because there's nothing really going on in the problem department.
Yes.
Is that why?
The squaw like a concubine or something?
Yeah, it's derived from the Algonquin language. It may have once simply meant woman, but over generations, apparently it morphed into a misogynist and racist term to disparage Indigenous women. So it's got to go. They're working to find a new name starting next year. But for people in California, you're going to have to call it something else. It's no longer Squaw Valley.
I can't even think of anything you said after you said Algonquin. That's
a great word.
All I'm thinking about. Yes.
Oh, a million years ago when I first moved to LA, I went on a date with this guy who was an agent, and we went to the Polo Lounge or whatever in Beverly Hills. And when he asked me, and I still to this day don't know what this means in this context, he goes, "I'd love to take you out, go to the Polo Lounge. It'll be very Algonquin."
Wow.
And I remain confused to the 15 years later.
Well, didn't they have their big round table feasts and stuff like that? Maybe that was...
Maybe? I don't know.
Brian with an I, you okay to hang with us? I got a note that maybe head
I'm
out.
okay.
Okay, good. There was
thinking about Algonquin.
A weird note on there. All right, let me hit Bet Online, and then we'll move ahead with Gina's stories. Bet Online, NBA, NHL, the playoffs, they're all up and running. BetOnline has you covered. Get in on all the action, including the new NBA playoff bracket contest. MLB continues through the summer, too. There's no shortage of ways to get in on the action. BetOnline has hundreds of odds, futures, and props to bet on. Plus, their casino, it never closes, people. Head to their website today. Sign up for your free and receive your free welcome bonus for your first deposit. Visit betonline.ag, our exclusive partner at Podcast One. And don't forget promo code Podcast One for your sign-up bonus. Maybe there's a fight. Maybe there's a UFC fight. Maybe there's some fella that you weren't that interested in, but now you will because you get a little action going at BetOnline. So, betonline.ag, BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. I think a lot of these words, like squaw, they start off as something, and then enough kind of rednecks start throwing them around, and it's not really like the word ever changed. It's who's using it and what the context
example, Adam.
is. Let's see. Well, you watch. I was just watching Midway last night. You watch any World War II movie, you got Japs and Krauts and all that kind of stuff, and it's like it's okay at the time it's out, but eventually, no the thing about names is names for groups or within groups always evolve. You know what I mean? Like queer, gay, homosexual, black, Negro, it just keeps Afro-American, Chicano. I remember when Chicano was a thing, and it just kind of keeps going. So time is going to disqualify all names for all things, because all you have to do is go 50 years in the future, and then you go, you can't say that anymore. It doesn't really matter how it started.
Yeah, Latino and Latina are sort of out because
Are they?
now it's Latinx because it's not gender identifiable.
Oh, yeah. It's
Latinx.
Is it Latinx or Latinx?
Latinx.
Oh, I thought it was Latinx.
Oh, I thought it was Latinx.
Oh, look what
I'm
you
still fascinated by the
Latinx.
Algonquin thing.
Well,
Can
I'm confused about that. I'm also Latinx.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is Latinx.
I've never heard anyone call it Latinx. I can tell you NPR calls it Latinx.
Oh, because they heard me say it was Latinx. And that was now problematic.
Pivot.
Latinx is is the only way I've ever heard it.
Wow.
Do they spell it a certain way? Does it have an
Can you
E
get in
on
touch
it?
with the guy who invited you on a date and ask him what he meant by Algonquin?
I don't ever want to. He had soup cans rolling around in the back of his trunk.
He's a charitable guy. He was on his way to
wasn't into
donate.
it.
Soup cans?
Yeah, it was a weird night.
And why were you in the trunk of his car?
Well, I
this
did ask.
is even more. Yeah.
Well, if you want to be creeped out and you do a hard stop and something's rolling around back there, I would rather it be soup cans than the remains of the last girl he went on a date with.
Fair.
So
Fair.
I could have been,
too.
but he told me it was soup cans. So let's head over to the fast food desk. Adam, when Jimmy took out the McDonald's when he ate it, when it was on the cork board for a year, was it an Egg McMuffin or a burger?
Jimmy took the piece of Canadian bacon. So we know it was from an Egg McMuffin or a morning breakfast sandwich.
Got it.
So he took the Canadian bacon out, he slid it out, and then he used a thumbtack and put it onto the cork board at the morning show office, Kevin and Bean, when we were in Burbank. And it was Jimmy had Frank Murphy had a desk in there, the producer. Kevin and Bean didn't have a desk in there. Jimmy may have had a desk in there. And that's where, and he plugged it on there and he put the date on there and he said, I'll eat it in a year. And then he ate it in a year.
And he was fun, and he lived to tell the tale and become quite successful.
Not only lived, he flourished.
The man of his word.
He thrived. Well, I asked because a woman's got him beat, but there's no evidence that she ate it. And we have the video. A TikTok user showed a video showing off a McDonald's hamburger and French fries that apparently been sitting in a box in a closet since 1996. It does not look bad at all. TikTok user Ali Sherb shared a video of her grandmother who's pulling out this box in a contents box that's just marked hamburger, and we'll let her tell the story.
This is the sack that it came in, and it was advertising a NASCAR race in 1996. So this dates the hamburger.
Is this
in
Jodie
its
Foster?
to 24 years old now. The French fries look like they maybe could have fallen under your seat a month or so ago. They've never rotted or decayed. The hamburger itself, the bread has never molded.
I would have eaten that in high school for sure.
24 years old.
And not as a goof, like earnestly eating it. Like
Wait, I don't understand.
Never even broken.
What? What don't you understand?
24 years old.
Yeah,
The woman
I
loved
don't
NASCAR.
understand.
24
Why she kept it?
Not sure what would happen if you ate it though.
How does it not change? I don't underend. How does it not change?
Let me tell you
Fast
something.
food magic.
Good food, like bouillabaisse or fish-based.
Bouillabaisse?
Like let me paint
You
an
like Chipino?
I'm gonna paint
Yeah,
like an
Chipino.
Algonquin type feast
Okay.
here for you to summon in your mind. But the best. All right, let's put it to you this way: the best stuff goes south the fastest. Like what's the best? Guacamole. Guacamole
sure.
doesn't make it through the night in the refrigerator. It's gone. Sushi gone. Nachos gone. All the greats. They collapse under their own weight. They're gone the next day. You can't even take some stuff. Like I said, sushi falls on it's all. But now McDonald's, that's kind of like Joan Rivers, which is like never really had a prime, but still look about the same 30 years later. You know
Just
what I mean?
as good today as it was 30 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. I wish Joan was around to appreciate that compliment. But
that was good.
So it didn't. It started.
But the bread.
It started.
Bread is beautiful.
It starts.
That's nice.
It starts as far away from food as you can, and then the bar's pretty low, because if you think about all the stuff that is food in its purest form, like surf and turf or something, like that's going to suffer. You know what I mean?
But like the bread that I have, it's like a 4-day window.
Yeah.
Which I understand, like processing, but 24 years, there's no mold.
When it doesn't start out food based, it doesn't.
Right. Yeah, you don't get mold on aluminum or fake tits, do you?
Well, no comment.
So there it is.
It is.
Yeah, I argue it's not really food, and you're right. Like the foodiest of all the food is like sashimi, and that doesn't make it to the next day. You
can't eat leftover sashimi.
No.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Although I fucking do. I mean, I brought a whole box of sushi on Garagos's jet when we went to San Antonio. Let's not forget.
Well, you want to bring your own sushi to San Antonio. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes.
So staying around the fast food desk here, Kentucky Fried Chicken, very interesting marketing pivot on their end. They've decided to hit pause on their famous slogan,
Hey,
finger
can I
licking
say
good.
this about sushi? The reason I ended up with a bunch of sushi is sushi, as we've all kind of discovered, I think, it's the last food that has a lot of rules attached to it, in that they know we need sushi. And when I say they, you know who we're talking about. They know we want it. They know we need it. They know we need it. And when I ordered sushi, it was a few weeks ago, I had some people over at the other shop, and I was like, give me 4 the whatever boxes. It's the new, what was it, Max?
The bento?
Yeah, it's like a bento box, but yeah, the place is called Crispy Rice.
Right. So I was like, give me 4 boxes. Then I found out one, and they're $50 a box, Then I found out one of the person was like vegan, so I got a new order. So then with an hour to spare, I was like, all right, cancel one of the boxes, and here, let me add this sushi order. And they're like, no, there's no canceling of the boxes. You're getting the 4 boxes. And I'm like, because if it was a fucking taco, I'd tell them to go fuck themselves, but they know we need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they know we have it. We're addicted to their drug known as sushi. So they're like, well, you got the 4 boxes, bro, because you ordered them. And I'm like, yeah, well, it was an hour. We got an hour, so just give the 3. And they're like, nope, you get the 4. And I'm like, okay. And then here's the new order, so add this to it, and they're like, yep. And I was like, and just put it in with the 4 boxes. They're like, nope, that'll come separately.
Be another hour.
And I'm like, why not just include it in that order? It's like, no, we don't do that. So thus, I the following day, I walked onto Mark's airplane with a bunch of sushi, because no way am I throwing that expensive shit away and going to San Antonio.
I like how a place called Crispy Rice has a lot of protocols around the right way to do sushi.
Yes. Yeah, well, who was Crispy Rice? That Sugarfish or something?
No, what's the one starts with a K?
Sugarfish is what? Yeah.
Katsuya?
Katsuya, yeah. It's a
Katsuya,
Katsuya.
Yeah, they're Katsuya,
Wow.
yeah. No, they're
Nailed that one
snobs.
from deep.
Yeah.
So no more finger looking good, going to the other side of the spectrum at KFC. Why? Why would they get rid of that slogan now? Because they want to discourage people from licking their fingers during a global pandemic. Catherine Tan Gillespie, she's the global chief marketing officer over there. She said in a statement, "We find ourselves in a unique situation, having an iconic slogan that doesn't quite fit in the current environment. They want you to know the menu isn't changing, but the slogan will come back when the time is right. But the time is not right now because we all do what the slogan says."
This is a pure publicity grab, right? This is one of those. This is Jodie Foster-esque in the need for attention. This is trying to get attention, right?
Yes.
There's no reason anyone would know one way or the other.
No, and I imagine Christy would say it's brilliant because I think I maybe Chris, if you can find it, one I don't know if it's an actual commercial, if it's just an ad, but they've tiled out the slogan.
Yeah, I can hear it. My wife, Brian, is an advertising. And if it was her, she'd be like, way too late. Should have jumped on this in March or April.
Is this equivalent to when, remember when Jack in the Box blew up the clown? Is this
well, that wasn't as socially conscious as this one is.
That was rebranding.
Yeah.
But this, no one really, when you say it's finger licking good, you're not endorsing licking your fingers. This is why this is really stupid. This is really stupid. No one walks into and they're like, thank God I'm here. I can lick my fingers here.
With
Everywhere
no
else
judgment.
they tell me exactly. Everywhere else they would judge me, but here, but we're in a global pandemic now. So now you can't lick your fingers here anymore.
And obviously there's got to be zero difference between eating the aforementioned McDonald's hamburger, holding it in your hand, and then eating the fries and dipping it. I mean, there's no science here at all. This is purely a grab. This is just an attention grab. So
wash fingers thoroughly before.
Oh my God!
I prefer John 3:16 or whatever's on the bottom of In-N-Out.
Yeah, Bible verses.
Yeah, they're a day late and a dollar short in this department.
Is this a joke though? Is that a joke thing?
It's not
a meme joke thing or no?
I think it's a real attempt. I think in our new sort of fake news era, companies are kind of realizing like we don't have to mean it if we can just say stuff and create buzz. And also, it's not bad buzz. Where I heard this story on, I don't know, TMZ. Now I'm hearing it here. Like we're just talking about chicken. I'm 5 times more likely to eat KFC on my way home from the studio tonight than I was before this story. Brian with an I, Brian Baumgartner, I know you got a hard out right about now, at least so says my screen. So I will give you a plug and let you get about your merry way. The podcast is an oral history of The Office. It's available exclusively on Spotify, and you can Twitter and Instagram at BB Baumgartner if you wish. Thanks, Brian. I was going to say Brian with an I. This was fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
So fun to talk to you.
Come back anytime you like. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Brian. Let me hit Geico here. Right now, Geico's offering an extra 15% credit on motorcycle and RV policies. That's 15% on top of the money Geico would already be saving you if you were with Geico. Never been a better time to switch to Geico and save an extra 15% when you switch by October 7th. You can lock in this savings. So visit geico.com to learn more. That is geico.com. All right, what else we got, Gina Grad?
Can I interject with one real quick thought? Is I'll ask Christy about this if she has any insight. But KFC's ad agency is Wieden & Kennedy. That's a huge ad agency. They notably do Nike's commercial. I mean, they have monster clients and they have very public work. I wonder if KFC is more of a conservative company because they have their own people on their side, their ad people. And I wonder if they just didn't want to jump into COVID right away because you're right. This is a day late and a dollar short. Like this would have been newsworthy, in March or April, and now it's just kind of like, all right, one more company.
Well, I'm trying to think of their commercials. They had all the guys. The campaign's called "Everybody But Adam Carolla Gets a Chance to Play Colonel Sanders." Colonel. And then they had now they are going with these kind of old timey ones where they're showing like footage from the 70s. I mean, they seem kind of conservative.
I can ask.
I got to tell you, that bucket of KFC going over to Vince and Pat Bruno's, our cousin's house in Santa Monica, and by house I mean very small apartment. But the idea that we would go to Santa Monica and that Vince would come home with a bucket of KFC, this is monumental. I mean, this is
worth the drive.
Yeah, they talk about on Hard Knocks or these football movies, like you circle the calendar when the Ravens come to town. Like you circle the calendar when Vince Bruno spends $11 on chicken. Like this is it's
a big day.
The big deal. Yeah, just such a big deal.
Sounds so goddamn good right now.
It does, doesn't it? And that
Biscuits.
bucket, there's something about that bucket because the bucket, had the window to excellence because the grease would just soak through the bucket. By the way, that bucket was considered a durable good.
No,
like,
not the bucket.
Hey, we're done with the chicken. Now we can play with the bucket. This is awesome.
Cardboard.
I'll put the bucket on my head. I'm the king of all chickens. Like, oh, yeah. No, that bucket. The bucket was next to my dad. There was a cigar box. Let's not forget.
That was a good item.
There was also a cigar tube. There's like the little aluminum cylinder.
Tampon tube.
Yeah, that was good for something.
Yeah.
You just couldn't throw that shit away. It's like we're trapped on an island. It's like Tom Hanks. Like, what washed up? A cigar tube and a bucket of chicken. Okay, we're going to use these.
Make a radio.
Yeah.
Speaking of fast food, we just watched the movie The Founder again, starring the incredible Michael Keaton. Great movie about how McDonald's came to be and how Ray Kroc, not the all-American nice guy you thought he was.
It's a great movie, and the story of the movie is even more interesting about Harvey Weinstein basically buried that movie. Like, that was an award-worthy movie.
It's a great movie.
Oh, why'd he bury it?
I don't know. I bet a smarter listener than me could tell you. I think it was some pettiness, perhaps, with the director. I don't know, but the movie got essentially buried.
Yeah, I remember that, and I haven't seen it. I've heard how good it was from.
Just to watch Michael Keaton, you'd love it.
Well, maybe Keaton didn't play the game. Maybe he didn't come up to Harvey's room and give him a blowjob.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm speculating.
I bet he didn't. I bet you're right about that.
I can almost guarantee.
He may not have blown Weinstein. Maybe. I don't want to get into trouble, but he might.
No, this is not the time. So there are new CDC guidelines, and maybe this is how we know we are. If we needed more confirmation, we're officially in idiocracy when the Center for Disease Control and Prevention has to issue guidelines about how to talk to crazy people who come into your business and start trouble because they don't want to wear the mask, or we'll just call them Karens for now. The CDC says don't argue with a customer if they make threats or become violent. They add that if needed, an employee should instead remove himself or herself and go to a safe area, because there's been so many incidents now at businesses, be them Costco, Domino's Pizza, wherever, ones that are recorded and not recorded, that the CDC has to now speak about it. The
Biden's America.
The agency also advises that employees should not attempt to force anyone who appears upset or violent to follow COVID-19 policy or other practices related to COVID-19 if the person's getting upset or violent.
Yeah, it's a bad time to work retail.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe Bezos is right. Maybe we should all just sit home and shop if you can work. But I couldn't imagine dealing with the public these days. And then they start asking you questions, and then they start filming you the whole time you're answering the questions. Like, ugh. And also, let's not forget, I taught traffic school, and I couldn't enforce any of the rules. Traffic school, you have to be bonded. Like, you are like an officer, basically, an enforcement arm of like the DMV. Like
an officer of the DMV, really?
They would tell me all the time, like when they issue you your completion certificates, like they're all numbered sequentially. They have to be entered into the log. It's essentially like, what you're saying to somebody is, you got a ticket, you got a moving violation, right? And then I'm going to issue the certificate that says you no longer have that on your record, or you don't have to pay the fine or whatever it is. But it all gets sucked into a kind of motor vehicles court, traffic, highway patrol kind of thing. Like it's not catch as catch can. Like I didn't give a shit, but it's real when they give you all these. I don't know. It's like a meter maid having her parking violations book or something. You can't just leave it on a counter and forget about it. Like it has to be accounted for, you know? And so they would always say that you got to get licensed and bonded. I don't mean licensed and bonded, but you have to officially get
certified.
You have to get certified and fingerprinted and stuff like that because you have to make sure that all this stuff is on the up and up. I never gave two shits. Thank God. I just sat there and talked about anything I wanted and took an hour and a half of lunch. I remember one time I was eating lunch with some students. We're just like eating Mexican food, drinking some beers, like having a good time. Eventually, one of the people came and got us. And they're like,
one of the students?
Yeah, they're like, hey, you got to start again. And I'm like, hey, what's your hurry? You know, and they're like, it's so hot outside. And like, we need to get back in the classroom. I'm like, all right. I would be horrible at enforcing any rules. If I we're talking yesterday about that beach club that had the swing set with the yellow tape around it. If I worked there, I'd just be like, I'm not putting the tape up. We're cool. Or if somebody was on it, I'd just be like, knock yourself out. Like I would be horrible at enforcing those things. Right. I'd hate to be a cop. All right. What do we got? Let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Last but not least, J.B. Weld. Both pros and DIYers trust J.B. Weld. They've been around for over 50 years, so why not? Available at jbweld.com, retailers everywhere, including Home Depot, Lowe's, Advanced Auto Parts, O'Reilly, Walmart, Amazon, Michaels, and more. It's J.B. Weld. Tomorrow, President Donald Trump will be on the program from the White House. I guess we're going to be at the Rose Garden there. Freshly remodeled Rose Garden. So
That's right.
I'll kick the turf over there and tell you how Melania did. Amazon, or sorry, I didn't mean Amazon. I meant Arizona. Tempe Improv, September 18th, 19th. We'll do live pods there and stand up there. Salt Lake City, Wise Guys, live pods there, 2nd and 3rd of October. And then we'll do some stand up there. I'm Your Emotional Sport Animal. It's the book. You can get it. Check it out. You can check out our YouTube page, youtube.com/Adam Carolla. We're putting all the stand up there. Brian Baumgartner, and you can check out his pod as well, an oral history of The Office. Until next time, this is Adam Carolla for Gina and Bald and Brian Baumgartner saying mahalo.